Alright, so let's get started with neonatal hypothermia. Starting with the definition of neonatal hypothermia, it's axillary temperature below 36.5 degree centigrade in a neonate, right? So this is what is the definition of neonatal hypothermia. Fine. So what is the duration to which a thermometer be kept in axilla to record the temperature accurately? For accurate temperature monitoring, it should be kept for at least 2 to 3 minutes. Fine. So we understand these things. Coming to some classifications. What are these classifications? The first word is cold stress. The second word is moderate hypothermia. The third is severe hypothermia. And I'll write auxiliary temperature. So based on the auxiliary temperature, what is cold stress, moderate hypothermia, severe hypothermia. Cold stress from 36 to 36.4 degrees centigrade, right? This is from 32 to 35.9 degrees centigrade, and this is less than 32 degrees centigrade, right? Now, what is cold stress? If you try to understand what is cold stress, the clinical definition is that the abdomen is warm, okay, but the soles are cold. This is what is cold stress. If you will touch the baby's abdomen, you will find it warm, but the soles are cold. Okay. Now the next thing. Why? The question arises, why neonates are prone to hypothermia? Why neonates are prone to hypothermia? So to answer this, I'll give you some logics. First of all, the neonates have a very larger surface area to body weight. High surface area to body weight, which will dissipate more heat. Fine. And if we talk about the whole body part, head dissipates the maximum heat. Okay. The second thing is that there is less subcutaneous fat in the baby, especially in the preterm and IUGR. These babies have very less subcutaneous fat, which will help in more dissipation of heat. The third, I can say that they are highly vulnerable to get exposed, right? They're very highly vulnerable to get exposed. And the fourth is there is absence of shivering. A neonate doesn't shiver. Okay, so these are the things that we talked about. Now let us see something else. Let us talk about the ways in which a neonate protects itself against hypothermia. Ways. Starting with the early on. Yeah. The ways in which a neonate protects. Ways in which a neonate protects itself against hypothermia. Fine, let's start with it. The first is non-shivering thermogenesis. What is non-shivering thermogenesis? It is first of all the most important mechanism, right? What happens here? There is a presence of brown fat. Okay, there is presence of brown fat in the body, and the areas where brown fat is present in abundance is axilla, right? Groins, nape of neck, interscapular area, around kidneys, around major blood vessels, right? These are the areas where there is lots of brown fat. Now these brown fat are richly supplied by blood vessels, first thing. And another thing is that they have very high mitochondria. So what causes them to generate so much of heat? Let us see. Okay, so what happens is that we'll talk about the mechanism. The baby is exposed to cold. Fine, it leads to sympathetic stimulation, right? There is release of norepinephrine, right, which will lead to the uncoupling of beta oxidation of fat. Uncoupling of beta oxidation of fat. This fat uncoupling, this beta oxidation, this entire process will lead to heat generation. Okay, so this is the way in which this thing happen, right? Now this uncoupling of beta oxidation of fat, it generates certain free fatty acids, and these free fatty acids, okay, fine, these free fatty acids interfere with bilirubin uptake. Okay, this free fatty acid interfere with bilirubin uptake, leading to jaundice. This is one another mechanism that I want to explain. Okay, so the other methods of generation of heat is cutaneous constriction, cutaneous vasoconstriction, when the child is exposed to cold. Another method, flexed posture. The baby is generally in flexed posture. And the last one is high heart rate. Okay, so these are the ways in which using the child tries to prevent the heat loss from the body. Okay, now the clinical features. Talking about the clinical features, when a child is exposed to hypothermia, right, it may lead to acidosis, right? It leads to hypoglycemia, it leads to hypoxia. These are the things which may lead to multiple organ failure. Okay, now because hypothermia is something that cannot really be treated, what we can do is prevent hypothermia. So prevention of hypothermia, we'll talk about prevention of hypothermia. The first thing, the first thing is warm chain. warm chain. And what are the components of warm chain? It is to prevent the neonatal hypothermia. Yeah, right. So, what are the components of it? First is thermal care in delivery room. And the temperature of the delivery room is around 25 degrees centigrade, right? What else? Warm resuscitation. What else? Immediate drying. Skin to skin contact. Early initiation of breast feeding. Bathing postponement. Adequate clothing. Rooming in. What else? Warm transport. And mind you, this is the weakest link. Weakest link. Okay. So now, certain devices that are used when we bring the child. Certain devices that are used to warm up the baby. There are two devices. Devices that are used. The first one is radiant warmer, and another is incubator. Radiant warmer heats the child by radiation, right? And incubator heats the child by convection. But we will say the loss of heat, that takes place in a radiant warmer is by convection, and in the incubator is by radiation. Fine. Okay. Let us talk a bit about kangaroo mother care as well. Kangaroo mother care. First of all, it is given to whom? It is given to all the stable low birth weight babies. Stable LBW babies. Okay. So it is given to all the stable low birth weight babies. There is a skin to skin contact between the baby and the mother. It can be kangaroo caregiver, can be mother or anyone, right? A male person can be there, no problem with that. Okay, fine. So components of KMC are, first is skin to skin contact, right? Second is exclusive breastfeeding. The third one is kangaroo nutrition. Fourth is early discharge from hospital. Okay. Advantages of KMC. There is decreased risk of hypothermia first. Second, there is lesser risk of nosocomial infections, right? Fourth, there is decrease neonatal mortality, right? Increase breast milk output, increase exclusive breast feeding rates, increase maternal and child bonding. Okay, so these are the advantages of KMC. Okay, so this is all about hypothermia, I think.